There are moments created by master filmmakers which unleash our childhood fears.
Something can come in and bite you on the neck and turn you into this horrible vampire.
They infuse our nightmares.
The film was so strong that I was sort of worried that I caught some plague off the film.
And terrify us.
Almost every horror movie now has that last little
They push the boundaries.
Those moments when you think this filmmaker is dangerous.
They make us scream.
For half the movie, I was like,
and jump out of our seats.
First time the shark jumped up, and I jumped. I didn't go out and around like, Daddy. It was just boom, boom.
These are the moments we never forget.
Even Pinhead, who doesn't do a decent, nice thing through 8 movies, but somehow or other still manages to get fan mail from women who would like to bear his children.
Presenting the 100 scariest movie moments, a countdown of the greatest moments of cinema shot.
Is this real or is it not? Because of the whole internet event that had happened.
I thought it was real.
The marketing was great. You know, everybody wanted to see it before it was even out.
It was important for us to explore the line between fact and fiction. Were these 3 young filmmakers, did they really go into the woods? Is this really a record of the last moments of their life?
They thought up a great way to torture us before we entered the movie theater.
Before the Blair Witch Project, I always felt very comfortable and very happy. Oh, nature, you know. And after that, for like 2 months, I would hear like the rustling of a tree, and it would send a shiver up my spine.
Nobody had done anything like it before, and it was just weird and crazy, and you're on edge. You don't know what to expect, and that's what you got to do, you know, with horror.
There's strange, like, voodoo dolls hanging from all over the place.
To see stuff come from behind or something shoot and the camera would have to turn around, that made that movie so much scarier than just the average, like, 2-3 cameras, and you saw everything come in.
When they were camping and she put the flashlight, like,
we never saw the boogeyman in that movie. We never saw the witch. We only saw what was happening.
Hearing their friends screaming in that way you could only hear sound in the woods, where there's like, you don't know what direction it is, and you just hear, God help me, oh my God. There's nothing they could have filmed that could have been worse than what I was imagining.
These people are looking for the witch's house, and they find it at the end. And it used such simple techniques like child's handprints on the wall. And they said right before she kills you, she sends you in the corner.
And I look over and my buddy, who's like 6'2", 220, is like this.
It's amazing what you can do on like such a low-budget movie, just yelps and shadows and screams.
The film was shot for about $40,000, and the film went on to gross domestically $140 million. This is the most profitable motion picture in the history of film.
There was something very real about that movie, that somehow in the way Wes Craven captured the world of voodoo and the stories that floated out about what went on the set, that people from the crew made fun of it and then kind of got zapped with it, I really believe in it.
It's basically based on the discovery of a real-life zombie, somebody who had died in Haiti and who had been declared dead by an American doctor who later, I think a year later, turned up alive.
People are put in boxes and given this potion, and, you know, they come back up and their brain's destroyed, and they'll do whatever you tell them to do.
It had a supernatural element to it, but it didn't feel far from the truth. He picks very basic, common fears.
They give you the Jesus juice, they put you in the box, they nail you, and they leave you there. And what happens is they'll get some voodoo priest to come and undig you, and at that point he'll put the whammy on your head by telling you that you've been dead.
That notion that these people were being buried alive made it more scary than even something that was purely fantasy.
The scene where Bill Pullman says, "Don't bury me, I'm not dead."
I'm not dead.
watch what you believe, because it can bite you on the ass.
I've even thought about being cremated. Just want to really make sure I'm totally, totally gone.
I was 13. I had a 3-year-old sister, and I babysat for her, and that was kind of my gig.
Every girl hears it the first time she goes to babysit. Somebody tells you the babysitter story. It's one of the classic urban legends.
I literally gave up all babysitting at that point. I swore off it. I wouldn't be home alone.
The power of a lot of frightening movies are the fact that it could happen.
The first 15 minutes of When a Stranger Calls are arguably the scariest 15 minutes in the history of horror cinema.
It was written so intelligently. It was a real old-fashioned sort of Hitchcock suspense movie, the way it was written, and then the way he shot it.
Carol Kane was unbelievable. She was just that low voice of hers and those wide eyes. So anytime she heard a noise in the house, she'd just immediately look into the camera. And then all of a sudden that great music would come into play.
And at first the calls are just a little creepy. She thinks maybe it's a heavy breather. And then the caller starts telling her to go check the children.
Asking me the proverbial, you know, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Have you checked the children?
One of the classic, literally, jolts of the film is when the terrified babysitter finally calls the police, has them trace the call, and she picks up the phone thinking it's the killer who's calling again.
Leave me alone! Jill, this is Sergeant Sacker. Listen to me. We've traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. Our squad cars on the way over there right now. Just get out of that house.
That's the ultimate scaredy cat feeling.
Never have two lines in the house.
Never have two lines in the house.
Never. People just screamed at the top of their lungs and stood up and talked back to the screen.
At that point, I sort of emotionally checked out, I think. I went into complete paralysis.
It triggered something in me as a child, hypnotically, that took me to another place.
With the success of Dracula, Universal really felt that it had, found the new Lon Chaney in the person of Bela Lugosi, and were eager to, exploit his talents in other frightening pictures. And it was announced that he was going to play the monster in Frankenstein.
Lugosi was very offended that he would be playing this, lumbering, stupid creature that didn't speak, and his face was all covered in makeup.
James Whale spotted Boris Karloff in the Universal Pictures commissary one day.
Mary Shelley's novel and James Whale's film both answer the fundamental horror question, where do monsters come from?
Now when I see some of those scenes, I just think, oh my God, audiences in 31 must have been having a heart attack.
It's alive. It's moving. It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive.
The creation of the monster is the creation of the horror film.
The first time he's standing up and walks in comes through the door, it's unbelievable. I still can't believe how effective that makeup is and how Karloff is.
The design of the makeup is so extraordinary, and Karloff's performance is genuinely brilliant. And he manages to be really scary. I mean, there are moments when the monster looks, it's frightening, but then there are moments like when he reaches toward the light that are beautiful.
The thing with Karloff was he had those eyes. He had those dead eyes.
He just wants to make friends. He makes friends with a little girl and accidentally kills her.
There's a little girl picking flowers, and Frankenstein just kind of shows up. And it's this very sweet scene because they're, kind of plucking flowers together. And then he doesn't understand when they've run out of flowers that, the difference between human life and flowers. And so he takes her and throws her in the water.
Carl Laemmle Sr., the head of Universal, was particularly upset by this scene and wanted it cut. The cutting actually made it worse.
They immediately cut to him throwing daisies into the water, to the father carrying the lifeless body of the girl, which just makes the monster look more vicious.
Up next, the 7 sins get a deadly spin. We're counting down to the scariest movie moment of all time.
Oh God, I can't tell it. Oh God, oh, you made me strap on a thing and I just...
I mean, that really freaked me out.
It's that genre taken almost to an art level.
The murder sequences in Seven are art directed within an inch of their lives. They actually owe a great deal to the Italian horror films of the 70s, what are called the gialli.
The way that David Fincher shot it and how dark it was and the camera angles and just this whole subdued palette of the film
Creates the sense that you're in a world that's coming apart.
He was very, very inventive in his different ways that he killed people, and they all gave you the chills.
They built it up with the 7 sins, and you were just knowing, okay, this one just happened, so it's got to be soft or it's got to be hate.
They just talked about what the victims were going through, and they showed pictures, and the reactions of the victims being interviewed after it happens to them is just insane.
Look at this fat, disgusting man that ate himself to death, that couldn't even pick his head up and it just fell in the bowl of spaghetti.
The details in the murders and the details in the killings were absolutely gruesome.
They find a guy in a apartment, and they walk in, and it's a low angle looking up, and it's smoky, and there's those Christmas tree air fresheners hanging everywhere, and the first thing you're thinking to yourself is, why the hell is there air fresheners everywhere? And they find this guy who looks like, I don't know if that was an actor, bro, and I hope it wasn't. I hope it was all just a dummy. It looks like a corpse.
It's dated exactly 1 year ago today.
I got a hair sample, I got a stool sample, I got piss, I got fingernails.
He's laughing at us.
You got what you deserved.
Your imagination runs wild, which I think is the key to a great scary movie.
We were actually shooting in an embalming room in Long Beach, California, and while we were filming, we were being supervised by the embalmer, and there was a knock at the door, and they had a fresh corpse they needed to bring in, and the embalmer had a donut in his mouth. He goes, "Oh, excuse me, guys, I got to take care of business."
I loved Phantasm because where I lived in Massachusetts sort of looked just like the neighborhood in that movie, and the house I grew up in was about half a block from a cemetery, and there was a mortuary, so it looked almost just like what was in that movie.
The way the kids' room looks sort of reminds me of my own childhood, but also this feeling that you're a kid and that you see things that adults don't.
Angus Scrimm, the tall man, he's one of the great boogeymen in horror film.
We filmed a lot in mortuaries and graveyards, and they do imbue me.
One of the scenes in Phantasm that scared me the most was when that kid's in bed and he has a nightmare sequence and he looks up and he sees the tall man, and the tall man's looking right over him.
I do think that turned out to be one of the most effective scenes in the picture, a real shocker.
Then I go to bed and I sit there and you keep opening your eyes and you can't close your eyes because you keep thinking the next time you open them, the tall man's gonna be there, and you have to kind of get out of bed just looking at the floor, hoping that if he's there, that like he doesn't notice you.
Roses are red, violets are blue, but the iris is the flower that will mean the end of it.
It's a film which doesn't want to follow any rules.
You could very well say it was, in some ways, the first punk horror movie.
It's like Douglas Sirk on an acid trip. Suspiria is about a young American ballet student who is going to Germany to study at a prestigious German ballet academy.
When you go to see a Dario Argento movie, you're just watching horrible things happen to people in a beautiful, beautiful way.
As wicked and as violent as they are, they're beautiful. They're lavish colors.
The blood, I mean, it's just like red, like you wouldn't believe. I mean, it's like almost in-your-face day glow.
He puts the gore in gorgeous.
One of the very last films shot in 3-strip Technicolor.
Dario styled it after Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and you can actually see that if you look at it very carefully. He always saw it as like a Walt Disney horror film.
The first 15 minutes, I'm a specialist of the first 20 minutes, 15 minutes. And then this is one of my best.
And he comes up with these incredibly elaborate ways to kill people. And there's one great scene in Suspiria where the first girl that dies falls through this huge, beautiful plate glass window.
I think the first 20 minutes of Suspiria have never been rivaled in cinema of horror ever.
Coming up, the video rental that scares you to death. We're counting down to the scariest movie moment of all time.
Something could go wrong when you give birth, you know? There could be any number of things, and this is the ultimate thing that could go wrong.
What are you going to do when you look into the bassinet and you see your child for the first time and it's the devil?
You know, there's this like special, beautiful bond between a woman and her baby that she gives birth to. I think like if your baby has like, you know, black devil eyes and horns and a tail, you know, the bonding is kind of hard.
The Dakota, which is probably one of the scariest buildings architecturally in America. Those gargoyles, that corner, Central Park, Strawberry Fields Forever, and all that.
Without the music in Rosemary's Baby, it wouldn't be nearly as scary.
You saw her absolutely surrounded by all these people that could very easily break her.
When you first find out that there are these devil worshippers at play, that gets you.
I don't like those kind of things where you're like, the whole world is against you. Like you know, Mia Farrow was screwed, man. The whole apartment building was after her.
It's because that guy wanted to make it as an actor. That's why.
Typical New York co-op word.
The doctor tells her, you know, take these pills, don't ask questions, don't read books. Oh, okay, no problem.
I think people can definitely relate to that, to men who are stronger saying, darling, you're just overwrought, why don't you lie down? And the devil will come have sex with you. It's happened to all of us.
The scene in Rosemary's Baby, I guess when she gets drugged up and gets raped by the devil, that can't be fun.
The rape scene is just awful. It's just awful. You don't know what's happening. You don't know if it's real. You're experiencing it like she did.
It's all shot at a vertiginous angle, like you're not quite sure what's happening, and I think that that's what makes it more horrifying, is it is sort of suggested and it's very dreamlike.
When she wakes up the next morning, she thinks it was a dream. And she then discovers scratches on her body, and her husband says, oh, I'm sorry, I was a bit of an animal last night. And that's really clever, because the film is like a dream. And at the end of it, you can't quite remember what you have seen, but what you imagine seeing. And that is smart filmmaking.
Don't Look Now was based on a short novel by Daphne du Maurier, who also wrote the story that Hitchcock turned into Rebecca.
The director, Nicholas Roeg, was not somebody who was known for thrillers. He was a cinematographer turned director with a very, very fine visual eye. For a great deal of its running time, it's very much a psychological story about two people who love each other very much, but their marriage has really been shaken by the death of their child. And they go to Venice
It's what Hitchcock always used to do, of picking the location and then thinking about things.
The husband, Donald Sutherland character, catches glimpses of someone who looks like his dead daughter, wearing a red raincoat. At the same time, there's a killer on the loose in the city.
Donald Sutherland finds himself in a room, in a cavernous room, with somebody standing in a red Macintosh, apparently weeping in the corner of the room.
Facing that character and not sure what's going to happen. You find it in films ranging from Blair Witch Project, where you get it at the very end, to The Sentinel, to Dario Argento's Phenomena, to Psycho.
He backs her into a corner and says, it's all right, everything's going to be fine, thinking that what he's doing is finally saving the child that he failed to save in the first reel of the film.
Come on.
Darlings.
It's in fact the person who has been committing the grisly murders which have been going on around the edges of the story all the time they're in Venice.
You are just horrified to see those hopes dashed.
He's like, that's what it is? It's a dwarf in a raincoat?
When the movie screened in New York, I invited like 50 of my friends to come see it. And it was really fascinating because some of them were just absolutely pissed off about the movie. I mean, like really, like violently angry. Some people came out going, oh my God, that was like an acid trip. Other people came out and were really like just moved by the movie.
Most horror films go very chronologically, whereas this one throws you off. You know, not only is the protagonist confused, so's the viewer. You're not sure what's real and what happened first.
Tim Robbins' character, he's a Vietnam veteran, he's a mailman, he's a very regular guy who is having what are either the most horrific hallucinations of all time or is being tormented by the creepiest, most deformed demons of all time.
You weren't sure if this was a Vietnam movie. You weren't sure if this was a supernatural movie. You weren't sure if this was just a movie about some guy's psychosis.
What is going on? This is this alternative universe. It's really dark. What's that creeping in the corner?
We know he was in Vietnam. We know he played with some drugs. But the things that we're seeing...
Every once in a while you catch a glimpse of like a tail coming out of someone's back. Or
you'd freak out. I remember that.
And then like you'd have like a head, like somebody, you'd see somebody in distance and they're like going like this.
Shake their head back and forth like this and you can't focus on them. You know, it's just...
that freaks me out.
Just tricks you, man, because it starts off very sexual, like dance scene. Elizabeth Benyo's all hot, like young and spicy, and she's all over Tim Robbins, and all of a sudden his tail comes in and she gets all evil, man, and then you just go,
And then we start hearing flapping. And then we see sort of a tail-like thing coming up in between her legs, moving towards her. And we're like, is she being attacked? Is she becoming this creature?
Freak out because you're right there with him. It's like the one moment that you have safe passage and all of a sudden she's a lizard and you're screwed because you're dancing with the lizard.
We all sit down in front of the TV, perfectly innocent thing, which you would never imagine could be twisted into some horrific moment. But suddenly these filmmakers have figured out a way to really turn that on its head, and it becomes something out of a nightmare.
The Ring is so scary. It's so scary. And I think it's a scary movie because it just seems like it could happen to you.
You know, one of the things that horror does, it lets you deal with your fear, right? Because you're containing your fear in the experience of watching a film, and then once the film is over, you go home. The Ring actually suggests that the act of watching can kill you, right? You watch this videotape and know it's not going to be okay. A week later, you're going to be killed in some way.
Okay, scariest scene in The Ring. I hate even thinking about it, is when the little girl comes out of the well.
When you see things that you've never seen before and you just can't help but be impressed, and if they're well shot and they come as a complete surprise, it gives the film a real potency.
Nothing like an anemic, pasty girl to scare you again.
It was just this shot of this decrepit-looking girl, and there's nothing scarier than a decrepit-looking 8-year-old.
Great makeup job on her face. I think it was Rick Baker. Brilliant, simple, but totally effective. And just the way it's shot and the way that she's walking, and it's just really a beautiful, sublime piece of creepy filmmaking.
First of all, you think the movie is over and you've had a somewhat happy ending.
She goes to her son and she says, you know, oh, it's all okay. We let her go. We did it. And the kid goes, no, you shouldn't have let her go. She's terrible. She's evil.
All the images have been contained. I mean, they're on the tape. They're contained on the TV screen.
So the person's not sure if they're still looking at TV or is this thing really coming until pop.
Moment again where reality is gone.
She breaks the third wall and crawls through the TV screen. It's so scary!
Coming up, a moment inspired by children who died in their sleep. We're counting down to the scariest movie moment of all time.
Well, I was sitting next to my mother, which slightly changed the dynamic. She wept when my name came up and was spelt right. And I said, Mom, that's really the best thing that's gonna happen. Now I'm afraid it's just gonna be sex and violence for the next 90 minutes.
Clive really caught people off guard. I mean, he brought S&M to horror.
Truly, the first film that brought a kind of sadomasochistic pain.
S&M, buddy. What's wrong with that?
Pleasure and pain, everyone has a subjective idea of what that is.
Evil is fun, you know, torture is love, murder is affection, you know, is all these things reversed. And what could be scarier than that?
His visuals in his films are just so creepy and so unsettling.
I went to my local library to find a book on film directing. And they had two, but they were both checked out. And I thought, oh, I'm so... I don't even have a book.
One of my most favorite things about a good scary movie is if they have good monsters. And the Cenobites are good monsters.
Pinhead is a jerk.
The worst of the Cenobites for my character, Kirsty, because he was the leader.
He's just creepy, man, and the chains whipping around. I mean, he does it all with his head, man. He controls change.
The villain was this weird box.
The audience doesn't know what to expect as they're opening this Pandora's box. You don't know what experience is going to happen.
A freak.
I mean, everybody in that film seemed to me to be in some kind of sublime pain. And it was equal parts S&M, Club, Hieronymus Bosch. I mean, that film really, truly entered my subconscious.
Pinhead, who doesn't do a decent, nice thing through 8 movies, but somehow or other still manages to get fan mail from women who would like to bear his children.
Pinhead. We'll hang out later.
I remember a very short story they used to quote in some analysis of horror literature. They used to say the last man on earth is sitting alone in his room. All of a sudden, a knock on the door.
The genesis for the film is Robert Wise having read Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House. And he tells a story that he was reading the book and somebody came into the office and scared the hell out of him. And he thought, well, you know, if that's sort of, you know, if I'm that jumpy from this book, this is probably going to make a pretty good movie.
What does it take to convince you that the dead do not always rest in peace? That some houses, like Hill House, are born bad?
This is a story about a group of people who go to a house that's supposedly haunted and they're supposed to record any supernatural activity. And the only thing, literally, that you as an audience member actually experiences in terms of the supernatural is knockings on the door, some kind of shaking furniture, and yet it becomes it's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen.
The Haunting is really a tribute to the dictum that less is more.
There isn't a monster, there isn't a special makeup effect.
You don't see any ghosts. You don't see any blood.
When the whole group is huddled together in the living room and the doors start to bend in from the force outside.
Saying, wow, no monsters, no makeup. That was good, psychological.
God, it knows I'm here.
For 3 years, I had sent that script around to the whole town of Hollywood, and everybody thought it was either stupid or boring or just gory or whatever. I knew by the time we were filming it was going to be strong.
Wes Craven had come across a few articles about some teenagers who were absolutely terrified to go to sleep.
In the middle of the night, they heard these horrendous screams and crashing, and they ran in, and he's thrashing on his bed and ran to him. By the time they got to him, he was dead. They did an autopsy on him, and there was nothing physically wrong with him. And I just thought, my God.
Wes described how he wanted to fool the audience about when the moment of reality ceased to exist and when they were actually into the dream, and how this was his goal. And that's what really intrigued me.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door.
Every time you hear that in any of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, you know something bad is about to happen.
Here's a guy who's been probably burned over 90% of his body, and he still wears a hat that covers some of that scarification, which is a sort of weird vein thing.
Those nails, the claws, and the scraping against the pipes.
What is that?
The idea that he's a child murderer and that she's going to avenge this terrible crime that he's committed against her own family, that's a direction that I always had inside of me.
Because he's a dream figure, he can basically do anything. He can transform himself into anything, into a phone, into any kind of creature. And so that's what makes him so powerful, because how do you resist sleep? How do you resist dreaming? He's everywhere.
Everything was a little bit jerry-rigged on our set, just because we didn't have a lot of money.
For my money, it's the revolving room scene where Tina just gets her brains bashed out on the ceiling.
There was something about the vulnerability. She was just in her underwear, and the fact that her boyfriend was trying to reach her, but he couldn't. There was no explanation for how she was up on that ceiling, because this guy's in the shot too, and it just worked really strongly.
He just drags her all around the bedroom by his finger claws on the ceiling, blood everywhere, and she's just screaming, and it's just so painful, and they don't cut it, you just watch all of it.
Leatherface grunts and he makes noises. Michael Myers doesn't say a word. Jason doesn't say anything. But Freddy really has personality.
There's a reason that New Line was, and in some circles, is still known as the house that Freddy built.
Freddy really has that universal appeal where he will terrify kids kind of under the age of 10. And anyone 15 and up, he says funny jokes and they enjoy it.
And the audiences loved Freddy so much, we exploited what they loved best about Freddy, which was this cruel sort of gallows humor that Freddy had, sort of jamming teen culture back down its own throat.
Coming up, a nurse from the hell makes a house call. We're counting down to the scariest movie moment of all time.
The Thorns have been a family of tremendous wealth, position, and power. The perfect marriage of Ambassador Robert Thorne and his wife Catherine was fulfilled by the birth of their son, Damien.
I've met like 3 Damiens, and it's like, why would your mother name you Damien?
When the child was 5 years old, something terrible happened.
I was at the hospital, Mr. Thorne, the night your son was born. I saw its mother.
The baby is the son of Satan.
You're looking at the devil incarnate. You're like, he's the devil, and he's on Earth.
You put a little kid in a scary little suit, and you're halfway home. Yeah. You know, that's scary. Kids in suits are scary.
The nanny is on the balcony and she says,
"Look at me, Damien. It's all for you."
Jumps out the window and like hangs himself. I went, okay, this is just too creepy.
The photographs all have these strange flaws, the omens of the title that portend how the people are going to die.
Was it an accident?
They just cut that guy's head off. And I'm watching it like spin around in slow motion as it cuts his head off. I went, oh, they really pushed it.
There are those who will die for him. There are those who will kill for him.
It's at night, and you've built up this knowledge, this awareness that the nanny who's moved into this family's house is an apostle of the devil.
Tom? Is that you?
When you get that close-up of her face, you realize, oh my God, Lee Remick is done. Just that last shot, which is Damien staring straight at camera and close-up and smiling.
The little boy waves at the end and the music, and he's so cute, but I mean, who can name their kid Damien after that?
Todd Browning is one of the unsung directors of all time.
Metro had seen the amazing success Universal had with Dracula and Frankenstein, and, you know, wanted to do the ultimate horror film.
One of his closest friends was Harry Earls, you know, the midget, and it was Harry Earls who actually came to him with the idea of doing Freaks.
Browning assembled the largest collection of sideshow performers that had ever appeared in one place.
Apparently there was more diva demands on this movie than you could possibly imagine. They really went Hollywood, the Freaks, on the movie. And of course Browning indulged them.
This created some real problems at the MGM commissary. People were really upset that Siamese twins and pinheads and armless, legless people were sitting at the next table.
I always loved Freaks, I mean, because, you know, it was real.
What he does successfully is he makes you totally comfortable with the freaks. So instead of being repulsed, we learn to like them.
There's the famous scene at the end where Harry Earl, he has like this beautiful woman who he's engaged to. She's an acrobat. And the other freaks catch wind of the fact that she just wants him for his money. Where a circus freak makes so much money from is anybody's guess. But okay, he was rich.
The most frightening scene in Freaks is obviously the climax, where the circus performers have their revenge.
There's that wonderful moment when they're going gooble, gobble, we will make you one of us. And it's joyous and it's freakish, but it's happy. You share the revulsion of the villains, but you also share the joy of the freaks.
It's all done in very, very silent movie imagery, you know, flashing thunderstorms.
There's this one guy in there who has, it's a head, he's a head, it's a black guy, and he has no body. He has literally like a sock He has no arms or legs, it's his thing. And he rolls a cigarette with his tongue and lips.
I can't roll and light a cigarette with 2 hands and 2 feet and a cigarette rolling machine.
With someone helping you?
Yeah.
But in the rain, when they're coming to kill them, there's this shot of him crawling along the ground with a knife in his mouth. And I was thinking, what the hell is he gonna do with that?
all-time pinnacles of shock in cinema as far as I'm concerned.
If you wanted to remake Freaks and go, yeah, we're going to use real deformed children and, you know, adults in our movie as the stars, I mean, there'd be no way.
You do feel so strongly for these characters. They've been pushed to the edge, and they actually are going to do to this human woman what nature has done to them.
Halloween's innovation was, one, Halloween, you know, I mean, actually taking Halloween and the concept of the boogeyman and putting teenagers in jeopardy.
This was a work for hire, okay? My job was to make a movie about babysitters in the Midwest being stalked by a killer, and you set it on Halloween. That's it. That's what Irwin Yablans wanted. That's the kind of exploitation horror movie he wanted. The rest was me. I was trying to make something out of it.
There was something so simple about Mike Myers that is just great. A person who killed as a child, and he's been in an asylum his whole life, and he broke out on Halloween night.
My production designer, Tommy Lee Wallace, we didn't have any money on this film, so he went up to a magic shop on Hollywood Boulevard and bought back 2 masks. One was a clown mask, and he brought back a William Shatner Star Trek mask.
There was such a blank face that the audience could project anything they wanted on it.
As I've said, I owe my entire career to William Shatner.
Carpenter, yeah, is a real one-man band of a filmmaker, and very importantly, composed that really distinctive piano.
The moment he was about to kill someone, all of a sudden you'd hear dun, dun, dun.
The music's actually as scary as the movie is. It was Deborah Hill's idea to cast Jamie Lee Curtis. I had wanted another actress, and she turned us down. Everybody turned us down for this film. Nobody wanted to be in it. She told me that her screams were like her orgasms. That's what she said. I think she's just trying to be nice to an old guy.
It's the least explicit of all those movies. I mean, after that come Friday the 13th, of course, and Tom Savini gore effects. But in Halloween, you virtually don't see a drop of blood. It's all about terror.
The biggest screams in Halloween come after she's killed him in the closet.
I want you to go down the street to the Mackenzie's house. I want you to tell them to call the police and tell them to send them over here. Now, do you understand me? Yes. Go do as I say.
Your attention is focused on Jamie Lee Curtis. It's a nice close-up. You can see that she's tired, but there's a little relief coming.
And they say, no, no.
Oh, no. You know, oh, God, she just put a hanger in his eye.
Man, is it simple. Guy with mask and knife stalks teenagers. And here we are all these years later, still watching it and still talking about it.